This isn't your place, girl. Think you're smarter than my engineers? The words cut deep, hurled at a young black freelance delivery driver in Neon Volt's high-stakes lab. Undeterred, she calmly proposed a fix for a rogue AI threatening America's power grid, a solution that left elite engineers speechless. Once a robotics prodigy, she'd faced a world of injustice, a wrongfully imprisoned father, a sick mother, and a dream derailed by systemic barriers. Yet, in this moment, her brilliance shone. How did she go from delivering sandwiches to rewriting history? Stick around to find out. This story will keep you hooked. If you love tales of grit and genius, hit that subscribe button and share where you're tuning in from. Your support fuels our latest videos. Will her courage spark a global revolution? Stay tuned to unravel the journey. The Heir and Neon Volt Technologies Atlanta headquarters thrummed with tension, a low hum of machinery undercut by sharp voices echoing off steel walls. Inside the secure lab, 30 engineers, each a titan, from MIT, Stanford, or Carnegie Mellon, huddled around glowing terminals, their faces lit by crimson alerts. The $1.2 billion AI system, designed to orchestrate 70% of America's power grid, was unraveling. It rejected shutdown commands, its neural networks spiraling as if possessed, drawing from an unknown data stream. A blackout loomed, one that could plunge cities into chaos, cripple hospitals, and expose national vulnerabilities. The Secretary of Defense was due in 2 hours for a demonstration. Failure was unthinkable. Richard Holt, Neon Volt's CEO, stood behind a fortified glass partition, his gray eyes unyielding. Known for axing employees with a single word, his silence now was a guillotine. Engineers shouted theories. It's a corrupted node. No, a backdoor exploit. Their fingers dancing across keyboards, rewiring connections in vain. The AI's diagnostic screens pulsed erratically, a heartbeat on the verge of collapse. We're 10 minutes from a cascade failure, a senior engineer barked, sweat beading on his brow. We have to pull the plug, another snapped. Do that, and we're admitting defeat to the world. Outside, in the sleek lobby, Kathleen Ramirez navigated a food cart piled with coffee and sandwiches. At 25, her Black and Latina heritage was etched in her sharp cheekbones and determined gaze, though her faded diner hoodie and worn sneakers marked her as an outsider. Once a robotics prodigy at Georgia Tech, Kathleen's dreams had shattered when her father, a technician, was wrongfully jailed in a racially charged case. To cover legal debts and care for her ailing mother, she'd traded lecture halls for delivery gigs, ferrying orders to the very tech empires she'd once aspired to join. Each step through Neon Volt's polished halls stung, a reminder of a life stolen. As Kathleen neared the lab's observation window, a flicker of red caught her eye. She paused, her cart creaking. Beyond the glass, screens streamed AI logs, their chaotic patterns screaming of disaster. Her pulse quickened. Years at Georgia Tech had honed her ability to read code like poetry, and this was no ordinary glitch. The AI was overfitting, gorging on corrupted data, likely from an IoT vulnerability, perhaps a malware's tendrils. She'd seen similar issues in her robotics projects, where unchecked inputs could turn brilliance into ruin. The grid was at stake, and she knew it. Kathleen approached a burly security guard stationed at the lab's entrance. I need to speak to someone inside, she said, her voice steady despite the knot in her chest. It's urgent. The guard smirked, his eyes raking over her hoodie. Deliveries stay out here, sweetheart. Before she could argue, a lab door swung open, and a senior manager, pale, balding, with a tailored suit, strode out. What's the holdup? He demanded, then fixed his gaze on Kathleen. This isn't your place, girl. You think you're smarter than my engineers? His words dripped venom, each syllable a blade. Kathleen's jaw tightened, but she held his stare. She'd endured worse, whispers in college labs, dismissive professors, the weight of being the only black woman in the room. I saw the diagnostics, she said, pointing to the window. Your AI is overfitting to bad data. It's an IoT exploit. I know how to fix it. The manager laughed, a harsh bark. You? A delivery driver? Get back to your cart. Arjun Patel, a young Indian engineer with kind eyes, emerged from the lab, wiping his glasses. He'd chatted with Kathleen during past deliveries, drawn to her quiet intelligence. Wait, he said, raising a hand. We're drowning in Tao. There, let her talk. The manager scoffed but relented, arms crossed. Fine, waste our time. Kathleen stepped closer to the window, her voice clear, cutting through the hum of panic. The AI's learning from a corrupted IoT stream. Sensors, maybe smart meters. It's why it's ignoring commands. You need to roll back to a 72-hour snapshot and isolate all external connections to stop it from relearning garbage. Her words hung in the air, precise, unyielding. The manager's smirk faded. Inside, engineers exchanged glances, some skeptical, others intrigued. Arjun darted to a terminal, his fingers flying. She's right. The IoT feeds are spiking with noise. He hesitated, then looked to the lead engineer, a grizzled veteran named Clarkson. We've got nothing else. Let's try it. Clarkson grunted, his pride warring with desperation. Do it, he said. Arjun input the commands. Rollback initiated. Connection severed. The room held its breath. Seconds ticked by. The crimson alert slowed, then shifted to amber. One by one, screens flashed green. The AI's heartbeat stabilized, its commands restored. Gasps rippled through the lab. It's holding, Arjun whispered, staring at the monitors. Clarkson turned to Kathleen, his scowl softening to disbelief. How the hell did you know that? Kathleen shifted, her cart still beside her. I studied AI at Georgia Tech, she said simply, before life got in the way. Her words were soft but carried the weight of years, sleepless nights, courtrooms, hospital bills. The sting of doors slammed shut. Holt's voice crackled over the intercom, sharp and commanding. Who is she? Every head turned. Arjun answered. Kathleen Ramirez. She's the one who fixed it. Silence followed, heavy with awe. Holt pressed a button and the lab's secured door hissed open. Bring her to the boardroom, he said. Now. Kathleen's heart raced as she followed Arjun, leaving her cart behind. The manager trailed, his earlier disdain replaced by uneasy silence. Engineers parted like a sea, their eyes tracking her, some with respect, others with envy. She felt the weight of their stares, the same scrutiny she'd faced in lecture halls, but she straightened her shoulders. This wasn't about them. It was about the grid, the lives at stake, the chance to prove she was more than her circumstances. The boardroom loomed ahead, its glass walls framing a table of suits and the looming presence of the Secretary of Defense. Already arrived. Kathleen stepped inside, her sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. Holt stood at the head, his gaze piercing. Kathleen Ramirez, he said, testing the name. Explain yourself. She took a breath, her voice steady despite the room's intensity. The AI was compromised by an IoT flaw. I recognized the overfitting from my robotics work. The rollback and isolation stopped it. She paused, then added, I didn't mean to overstep, I just couldn't walk away. Holt leaned forward, his expression unreadable. The secretary, a stern woman with silver hair, raised an eyebrow. You're not an engineer here, she asked. Kathleen shook her head. I'm a delivery driver. I was at Georgia Tech, but family issues pulled me out. A murmur rippled through the room. The manager shifted uncomfortably, his earlier words echoing like a ghost. Holt's eyes never left Kathleen. You saved this company, and possibly the nation, in 10 minutes, he said. Stay right there, Ms. Ramirez. We're not done. As she stood, surrounded by power and scrutiny, Kathleen felt a spark reignite, a dream buried but never dead. The lab's lights gleamed behind her, no longer flashing red but steady like a new dawn. The boardroom at Neon Volt Technologies gleamed with cold precision. Glass walls, a mahogany table, and the faint hum of air conditioning. Kathleen Ramirez stood at its center, her diner hoodie stark against the tailored suits of executives and the crisp uniform of the Secretary of Defense. Her heart thudded, but her gaze held steady. meeting the piercing eyes of Richard Holt, Neon Volts, CEO. Moments ago, she'd halted a catastrophic AI failure, saving the nation's power grid. Now, the room's silence felt like a tribunal. Holt leaned forward, his voice low but commanding. Ms. Ramirez, you claim you're a delivery driver, yet you diagnosed a flaw our top engineers missed. Explain. His tone wasn't accusatory, but it demanded truth. Kathleen swallowed, her fingers brushing the edge of her sleeve. I was a robotics and AI student at Georgia Tech, she began. Full scholarship, 4.0 GPA. I worked on neural network stability, projects like the one your AI runs. But my father was wrongfully arrested 3 years ago. My mother's heart condition worsened. I had to drop out to cover legal fees and medical bills. Now I deliver food to places like this. A murmur rippled through the room. The Secretary General, Elaine Carver, adjusted her glasses. Wrongfully arrested? She probed, her voice sharp but curious. Kathleen nodded, her throat tight. My father was a technician at a power plant. He was accused of tampering with equipment, framed in a case tainted by racial bias. The evidence was flimsy, but the legal fight drained us. I've been working double shifts to keep my family afloat. The senior manager from the lab, Harold Grayson, shifted in his seat, his earlier sneer replaced by unease. He cleared his throat. No offense, Ms. Ramirez, but you expect us to believe a dropout fixed a $1.2 billion system without a degree? His skepticism hung heavy, echoed by a few executives' raised brows. Arjun Patel, the young engineer who'd vouched for Kathleen, leaned forward. With respect, sir, the diagnostics don't lie. She pinpointed an IoT exploit and gave us the exact rollback protocol. The grid's stable because of her. He slid a tablet across the table, its screen glowing with technical logs. Her solution was textbook, better than textbook. General Carver scanned the report, her lips pursing. These numbers check out. You rerouted a national crisis in under 10 minutes, Ms. Ramirez. That's not luck. Her gaze softened, but only slightly. What's your endgame here? Publicity? Payout? Kathleen's eyes flashed with quiet defiance. I didn't plan this. I saw the alerts and knew I could help. Walking away wasn't an option. Her voice, though calm, carried the weight of someone who'd fought too many battles to back down. Holt steepled his fingers, studying her. You're telling me you abandoned a promising career for family, then walked into my lab and saved my company. Why didn't you try to get back into tech? Kathleen's lips quirked, a bitter edge to her smile. I applied to dozens of firms. Most didn't call back. The ones that did offer entry-level roles couldn't cover my mother's meds. Delivery pays the bills. Her honesty was raw, stripping bare the barriers she'd faced. Doors closed, potential ignored. A memory flickered. Her father's call from the county jail, his voice breaking. Don't let them dim your light, Kat. She'd sat in their cramped apartment, legal papers scattered, her mother's oxygen tank hissing. Georgia Tech's labs, once her sanctuary, had become a distant dream. Yet here she was, standing where she'd always belonged. Holt broke the silence. I don't believe in charity hires, Ms. Ramirez, but I believe in results. You've shown more competence than half my team. I want you as the lead engineer on our AI security project. Full salary, benefits, and I'll fund your degree if you choose to finish it. Kathleen blinked, the offer landing like a shockwave. You're serious? Her voice wavered, not from doubt but from the surreal weight of hope. She'd spent years invisible, her brilliance buried under necessity. Now it was being summoned to the light. Dead serious, Holt replied, his gaze unwavering. You belong in this fight. Say yes and you start tomorrow. Arjun grinned, his enthusiasm infectious. Come on, Kathleen, you're one of us. Another engineer, a quiet woman named Lena, nodded from the corner. You earned this. Don't let Grayson's noise fool you. Grayson flushed but said nothing. His authority diminished. Kathleen's mind raced. This was a lifeline, but it meant stepping into a world that had rejected her, facing scrutiny and expectations. She thought of her mother, frail but fierce, who'd always said, "Your mind is your power." She thought of her father, still behind bars, his freedom of fading hope. This could change everything. "I need to think about it," she said, her voice soft but firm. Holt raised an eyebrow, unaccustomed to hesitation. "You have until tomorrow morning," he said. "Don't waste this." As the meeting adjourned, Arjun caught up with Kathleen in the hallway, the lab's glow fading behind them. "You're not thinking of saying no, are you?" he asked, adjusting his glasses. "This is your shot." Kathleen sighed, her sneakers scuffing the marble floor. "It's not that simple, Arjun. I've got my mom, the bills, and my dad's case. This place, it's not my world anymore." Her eyes drifted to the food cart, still abandoned near the lab door, a symbol of her tethered life. Arjun's expression softened. "Maybe it wasn't, but you walked in there and proved it could be. You saw what we didn't. That's not just skill, that's courage." Kathleen managed a small smile, his words a balm. "Thanks for having my back out there." "Always," he said, clapping her shoulder. "Now go home and say yes." The Atlanta evening was humid, the city's skyline glittering as Kathleen drove her beat-up sedan home. Her apartment, a cramped unit in a worn complex, smelled of antiseptic and coffee. Her mother, Maria, sat by the window, her oxygen tube in place, her eyes lighting up as Kathleen entered. "You're late, mija," Maria teased, her voice weak but warm. "Good tips today?" Kathleen knelt beside her, setting down a bag of groceries. Something bigger happened. She recounted the day, the lab, the AI, Holt's offer, her words tumbling out. Maria's hand found hers, squeezing gently. "This is your calling, Kat. Don't be afraid to take it." As Kathleen prepared dinner, her gaze fell on a faded family photo. Her parents smiling at a 4th of July picnic. Her father's absence was a wound, but today's event stirred something new. Possibility. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through old Georgia Tech notes, her mind already tracing AI algorithms. The boardroom had been a battleground, but it was also a door. Lying in bed, the city's hum filtering through her window, Kathleen made her choice. She'd say yes, not just for herself, but for her family, for the girl who'd once dreamed of changing the world. The truth of her talent, long concealed, was ready to shine. Neon Volt's Atlanta headquarters shimmered under the morning sun, its glass facade a mirror to the city's ambition. Inside, Kathleen Ramirez clipped a freshly minted badge to her blazer, the words AI Systems Engineer gleaming in bold. Her first day felt like crossing a threshold, the weight of her decision to join Neon Volt settling in her bones. The lab buzzed with activity, screens aglow, engineers murmuring over code. But Kathleen's presence drew glances. Some were curious, others guarded. She was no longer the delivery driver. She was a prodigy reborn, yet the spotlight burned. Arjun Patel greeted her with a grin, his glasses fogged from the lab's cool air. "Welcome to the chaos, Kathleen. Ready to dive in?" He led her to a sleek workstation overlooking the AI, Core's diagnostic hub, its holographic displays pulsing with data. "This is yours," he said, gesturing to the setup. Holt's orders. Kathleen's fingers grazed the keyboard, a surge of belonging tempered by doubt. This world, once hers at Georgia Tech, felt both familiar and foreign. Her first task was a security audit of the AI grid, a behemoth controlling 70% of America's power. Kathleen's eyes scanned the code, spotting a subtle flaw in the encryption layer, a backdoor that could let rogue IoT devices slip through. She flagged it, her report crisp and precise, and sent it to the team. Within hours, Richard Holt summoned her to his office. "Your audit caught something we missed," he said, his voice gruff but approving. "Fix it. Lead the patch." Kathleen nodded, her confidence bolstered, though the weight of his trust pressed hard. The lab became her proving ground. Kathleen worked alongside Arjun and Lena, a soft-spoken engineer with a knack for neural networks. Their camaraderie eased her into the team, but not all welcomed her. Harold Grayson, the manager who'd once scorned her, lingered on the fringes, his whispers seeding doubt among senior staff. "She's a fluke," Kathleen overheard him mutter to a colleague. "Holt's just chasing a feel-good story." The words stung, echoing the skepticism she'd faced in college, where her brilliance was often questioned before it was praised. Yet Kathleen pressed on, her mind a blade slicing through complexity. She proposed a dynamic firewall to block OT exploits, earning nods from Lena and a rare solid work from Clarkson, the grizzled lead engineer. Her ideas flowed, each one a step toward reclaiming her place. But the lab's intensity was only half the battle. Outside, her story had ignited a firestorm. Wired ran a cover feature, the delivery driver who saved the grid. Tech blogs dubbed her a hidden genius. Invitations to AI conferences flooded her inbox, each one a dizzying reminder of her ascent. Kathleen struggled with the glare. Walking through Neon Volt's lobby, she felt eyes, security guards, interns, executives, tracking her. She was no longer invisible, but visibility came with chains. At home, she confided in her mother, Maria, whose frail hands held hers. "You're not here to please them, Mija," Maria said, her voice a quiet fire. "You're here to be you." Kathleen clung to those words, but the pressure gnawed. She wasn't just an engineer. She was a symbol, and symbols were fragile. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, a memory from a prison visit. "Don't let them dim your light, Kat." Inspired, Kathleen launched Code for All, a mentorship program for Black, Latino, and underserved students in AI. She partnered with local community centers, hosting workshops where kids coded their first algorithms. Their eager faces, brown, black, hopeful, mirrored her younger self, dreaming beyond the odds. The program was small but growing, a seed of change she nurtured between lab shifts. The spotlight intensified at the AI Summit in Silicon Valley, where Kathleen was invited to speak. The auditorium thrummed with tech giants, their polished suits a stark contrast to her simple blazer. She took the stage, her notes trembling in her hands. "AI isn't just code," she began, her voice steadying. "It's a tool for equity, if we let it be." Her speech wove her journey with a call for inclusive tech, earning murmurs of approval. But during the Q&A, a venture capitalist in a crisp tie stood. "Ms. Ramirez," he said, his tone clipped, "your story's inspiring, but without a degree. How do you justify leading at Neon Volt?" The room stilled. Kathleen's pulse spiked, the question a dagger aimed at her legitimacy. She thought of Grayson's sneers, of Georgia Tech's late nights, of her father's unjust sell. "I don't justify it," she said, her voice clear, cutting through the tension. "My work does. I stopped a national crisis with what I know, not with a piece of paper. Talent doesn't wait for permission. It shows up." The audience erupted in applause, the capitalist sinking into his seat. Kathleen left the stage, her heart pounding but her spirit alight. Back in Atlanta, Code for All gained traction. Kathleen mentored a shy teen named Jamal, whose knack for coding rivaled her own. "You're like me," she told him, smiling. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." The program's success drew attention from HBCUs, sparking talks of partnerships. Each step forward felt like a reclaiming, a way to honor her past while building a future. One evening, as Kathleen reviewed firewall specs in the lab, Arjun dropped a bombshell. "Heard from a friend at the ACLU," he said, his voice low. "They're looking into your dad's case. Your story's got their attention." Kathleen froze, hope and fear colliding. Her father's freedom had seemed a distant dream, but now a crack of light appeared. She thanked Arjun, her voice thick, and turned back to her screen. The data a lifeline. At home, Kathleen sat with Maria, the city's glow filtering through their apartment's thin curtains. "You're doing it, Mija," Maria said, her eyes bright despite her fatigue. "Changing things." Kathleen squeezed her mother's hand, the weight of her journey settling. The spotlight was harsh, but it was hers. She wasn't just an engineer or a story. She was a force, carving space for those who'd been overlooked. As she prepared for bed, Kathleen glanced at her neon volt badge, its shine a quiet promise. The lab, the stage, the kids she mentored, they were pieces of a life she was rebuilding. A call from the ACLU could mean her father's return, a family whole again. She didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time, she felt ready. The world was watching, and Kathleen Ramirez was stepping into the light unapologetically herself. Neon Volt's Atlanta lab pulsed with a relentless rhythm, its holographic displays casting jagged shadows across Kathleen Ramirez's workstation. Months into her role as AI systems engineer, she'd become a linchpin, her firewall patches fortifying the nation's power grid. But the air today carried a new weight. Richard Holt, Neon Volt's steely CEO, had just unveiled Project Helios, a global AI network to power microgrids in underserved regions, from rural Appalachia to sub-Saharan villages, and he'd chosen Kathleen to lead its core design team, a role that thrust her onto a precarious peak. Kathleen's fingers danced over her keyboard, refining Helios's neural architecture. The project was a marvel, promising clean energy to millions, but its complexity was a beast. She worked late, her eyes burning, balancing equations while mentoring teens through Code for All, her program for underserved youth. Sleep was a luxury, replaced by coffee and determination. Yet whispers slithered through the lab, venomous and sharp. "She's Holt's pet project," a senior engineer hissed to another, their voices low but piercing. "A diversity hire, not a leader." The words echoed Harold Grayson's old taunts, gnawing at Kathleen's resolve. The lab's hierarchy was a minefield. While Arjun Patel and Lena cheered her on, others, like Grayson's clique, saw her ascent as an affront. One afternoon, as Kathleen presented a Helios prototype to the team, a veteran coder named Vickers interrupted. "This predictive model's over-engineered," he said, smirking. "Did you even test it?" The room tensed, eyes darting to Kathleen. She held his gaze, her voice calm but edged. "I ran 10,000 simulations. It's stable under extreme loads. Want the logs?" Vickers faltered, muttering as she projected the data, her competence a quiet rebuke. But the barbs piled up, each one a stone on her chest. Kathleen felt the ghost of Georgia Tech, where she'd been the lone black woman in labs, her ideas scrutinized, before they were valued. She pushed through, her mind a fortress, but exhaustion crept in. At Code for All sessions, she inspired kids like Jamal, whose coding skills blossomed, but her spark flickered. She was running on fumes, her mother's medical bills and her father's ongoing case a constant hum in her mind. One evening, Holt called Kathleen to his office, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing Atlanta's skyline. "You're spread thin," he said, his tone direct but not unkind. "Helios needs you sharp, not burned out." Kathleen shifted, her blazer feeling too tight. "I'm managing," she lied, her voice betraying a tremor. Holt leaned back, his gray eyes assessing. "I was like you once, first generation, underestimated. I clawed my way up from nothing. But you can't carry the world alone. Focus on what matters." His words lingered, a rare glimpse behind his armor. Kathleen nodded, but doubt gnawed. Was she enough for Helios, for her kids, for her family? A memory surfaced. Late nights at Georgia Tech, her study group debating AI ethics while she fought to be heard. She'd thrived then, but now the stakes were global. She left Holt's office, the city's lights blurring as she wrestled with her limits. The pressure peaked when a new threat emerged. During a Helios stress test, Kathleen's team detected an anomaly, a sophisticated cyber attack probing the system's sensors. The intrusion was surgical, exploiting a flaw in the microgrid's data pipeline. "This isn't random," Kathleen told Arjun and Lena, her voice taut as they huddled over diagnostics. "It's targeted, maybe state-sponsored." The lab buzzed with urgency, engineers scrambling to trace the breach. Grayson, ever the opportunist, cornered her. "If Helios fails, Ramirez, it's on you. Hope you're ready to crash and burn." Kathleen's fists clenched, but she channeled her anger into focus. She led the team, her mind racing through attack vectors. "It's the sensor relays," she said, pointing to a data spike. "They're being flooded with fake inputs." She proposed a countermeasure, rerouting the data through a secondary AI to filter malicious signals. Lena hesitated. "That's risky. If it backfires, we lose the whole network." Kathleen met her eyes. "Trust me, we don't have time to play safe." The team executed her plan, screens flickering as the AI battled the intrusion. Minutes stretched like hours, the lab silent save for the hum of servers. Then a green pulse. Success. The breach was contained, Helios intact. Arjun whooped, clapping Kathleen's shoulder. "You're a damn wizard." Even Clarkson, ever. Stoic gave a curt nod. Grayson slunk away, his silence louder than any retort. The victory was bittersweet. Kathleen's body ached, her mind frayed. She drove home, the city's pulse a distant drum. Her apartment was quiet, Maria asleep, the oxygen tank's rhythm a steady comfort. Kathleen sank into a chair, staring at a photo of her father, his smile frozen in time. The ACLU's interest in his case, sparked by her rising profile, was a fragile hope. She needed him free, needed her family whole. But the weight of Helios, of proving herself, threatened to crush her. A memory flickered. Her mother's voice, soft but fierce during a hospital stay. "You're stronger than you know, Kat. Don't let the world tell you otherwise." Kathleen clung to it, her resolve hardening. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for her father's. Justice for her mother's peace, for kids like Jamal who deserved a chance. The next morning, a surprise waited. As Kathleen entered the lab, Arjun greeted her with a grin. "Check your email." The ACLU had formally taken her father's case, citing new evidence of prosecutorial misconduct. Kathleen's breath caught, tears pricking her eyes. "They think they can win," Arjun said, his voice warm. "Your story's making waves, Kathleen. It's bigger than you know." She nodded, emotions swelling. The lab's glow felt different now, less a battleground and more a forge. Helios was her crucible, code for all, her legacy. She sat at her station, pulling up the project's schematics. The cyber attacks wouldn't stop, nor would the doubters. But Kathleen was ready. She'd faced worse, and emerged unbroken. That evening, she visited the courthouse, a place of pain now tinged with hope. The ACLU lawyer, a sharp woman named Torres, outlined the case. "We're pushing for a retrial. Your visibility is helping." "Ms. Ramirez." Kathleen stood outside, the Atlanta dusk wrapping her in warmth. Her father's freedom was closer, a light at the tunnel's end. She thought of Helios, of the villages it would illuminate, of the kids she'd inspired. The pressure was immense, but so was her purpose. Kathleen drove home, the city's skyline, a canvas of possibility. She was no longer just surviving. She was shaping the future, one line of code, one mentored dream at a time. The pinnacle was hers to claim, and she would not falter. The United Nations General Assembly Hall buzzed with a polyglot hum, its vast ceiling dwarfing the sea of diplomats and tech luminaries below. Kathleen Ramirez stood backstage, her tailored, suit a far cry from the diner hoodie of her past. Her heart thundered as she clutched her speech, the words a distillation of her journey. Neon Volt's project Helios had propelled her here, to speak on AI's role in global equity. But the weight of the moment pressed hard. She was no longer just an engineer. She was a voice for those the world overlooked. The moderator's call echoed, "Kathleen Ramirez, Neon Volt Technologies." She stepped onto the stage, the spotlight searing, thousands of eyes locked on her, from suited envoys to streaming viewers worldwide. "Genius isn't confined to elite halls," Kathleen began, her voice steady, resonant. "Sometimes it blooms where struggle runs deepest." She wove her story, delivery routes, a father's unjust cell, a grid saved, into a call for inclusive tech, her words sparking nods and murmurs. "AI can light the world, but only if we let everyone hold the torch." The hall erupted. Applause, cascading like a wave. Kathleen's speech rippled beyond the UN. Online, clips went viral, her phrase, "Genius blooms in struggle," trending across platforms. Back in Atlanta, she poured her energy into Code for All, her mentorship program now a beacon for Black, Latino, and underserved youth. She partnered with HBCUs like Spelman and Morehouse, securing grants to equip labs and train instructors. At a workshop, she watched a girl named Aisha debug her first neural network, her grin mirroring Kathleen's college days. "You're a natural," Kathleen said, kneeling beside her. "Keep going." Aisha's nod was a promise, a spark of legacy. The pinnacle of Helios's rollout came in a Kenyan village, where Kathleen stood on sun-baked earth, the air thick with dust and anticipation. Neon Volt's microgrid AI, her brainchild, was about to power a community for the first time. Engineers bustled around solar panels and servers, their chatter mingling with villagers' hopeful whispers. As the switch flipped, lights flared in. A schoolhouse, children cheering as bulbs banished the dusk. Kathleen's chest tightened, pride mingling with awe. A girl no older than 10 ran up, clutching a tablet displaying Kathleen's UN speech. "Is this you?" she asked, eyes wide. "I want to be an engineer." Kathleen knelt, her smile warm. "Then start now. You've got what it takes." The girl beamed, clutching a crayon drawing of a glowing bulb labeled Miss Kathleen. The image seared into her heart, a reminder of why she fought. Later, as stars pierced the African sky, Kathleen walked the village, its new lights a constellation of hope. Helios had reached 10,000 homes, with more to come. But the girl's drawing was her true trophy. Back in the US, the spotlight grew harsher. At a DC Tech forum, a reporter challenged her. "Ms. Ramirez, are you a one-hit wonder? Helios is impressive, but can you sustain this?" Kathleen's jaw tightened, the question a barb at her permanence. She thought of her mother's hospital room, her father's letters, and the kids she mentored. "Helios isn't a hit," she replied, her voice clear. "It's a foundation. I'm here to build, not to flash and fade." The room buzzed, her defiance silencing doubters. Online, supporters rallied, but skeptics persisted, their posts a drumbeat of fluke and token. A memory surfaced, delivering sandwiches to Neon Volt, feeling invisible as executives passed. Now she was a symbol, her face on TechCrunch, covers and STEM brochures. The shift was dizzying, but Kathleen grounded herself in purpose. She reviewed Helios's data late into the night, tweaking algorithms to optimize energy flow. At Code for All, she expanded virtual classes, reaching rural teens in Alabama and New Mexico. Her inbox overflowed with thank yous from parents, one noting their son's college acceptance. Each message was a brick in her mission, but the pace left her breathless. In Atlanta, Kathleen's home was a sanctuary, though its walls bore the wear of years. Maria, her mother, greeted her with a frail smile, her oxygen tank a quiet companion. "You looked strong up there," Maria said, gesturing to a tablet replaying the UN speech. Kathleen sat beside her, the city's hum filtering through thin curtains. "I'm trying, Mama," she said, her voice soft. "But it's a lot." Maria's hand found hers. "You're carrying light, mija. That's never easy." The promise of her father's release grew brighter. The ACLU's case gained traction, with a judge scheduling a hearing. Kathleen allowed herself to hope, picturing her father's arms around her. She visited Maria daily, cooking meals and sharing stories of Helios's impact. One evening, as she left the apartment, a neighbor stopped her. "Saw you on TV," he said, grinning. "You're making us proud." Kathleen smiled, the words a balm against the skeptics. At Neon Volt, Arjun and Lena remained her anchors. Over coffee, Arjun shared news of Helios's expansion to Haiti. "You're changing lives, Kathleen," he said, his enthusiasm infectious. Lena, quieter, added, "Don't let the noise get to you. You're the real deal." Their faith steadied her, but Kathleen knew the road ahead was long. Helios faced technical hurdles, sensor calibration, data latency, and Code for All. Needed funding to scale. She tackled each challenge with precision, her mind a lighthouse in the storm. The Kenyan girl's drawing stayed with her, pinned above her workstation. It symbolized more than Helios. It was a vow to those who'd been counted out. Kathleen recalled her childhood, sketching circuits in a cramped bedroom, dreaming of a world that valued her. Now she was building that world, one village, one student at a time. The UN speech had been a milestone, but her work was far from done. As she boarded a flight back to Atlanta, Kathleen gazed at the clouds, the earth a patchwork below. Helios was lighting homes, but her true mission was lighting minds. The girl in Kenya, Aisha, Jamal, they were her why. The skeptics could doubt, the pressure could mount, but Kathleen Ramirez was a force, her light spreading far beyond the grid. She landed with renewed fire, ready for the battles ahead, her heart full of a truth she'd earned. She was enough. The Neon Volt lab in Atlanta was a fortress of light and sound, its servers humming like a distant storm. Kathleen Ramirez stood. At the heart of it, her eyes locked on a wall of monitors flashing urgent alerts. Project Helios, her global microgrid AI, was under siege. A coalition of international hackers, suspected to be state-backed, had launched a relentless assault, targeting Helios's relays in conflict zones from Yemen to eastern Ukraine. If they succeeded, millions would lose power, plunging fragile regions into darkness. Kathleen's team scrambled, but the stakes were unlike any they'd faced. "We're seeing coordinated strikes across 5 nodes," Arjun Patel reported, his voice tight as he scanned data streams. "They're overloading the thermal sensors to crash the grids." Kathleen's mind raced, her fingers hovering over her console. The hackers were exploiting a vulnerability in Helios's heat regulation, a flaw she hadn't anticipated. Failure here would unravel years of work and fuel her critics' claims that she was out of her depth. The crisis drew scrutiny from Neon Volt's global partners. During a tense video call, a German executive, Dr. Muller, leaned into the camera, his tone icy. "Ms. Ramirez, you're leading this project, but you're young, untested. Can you handle this?" His words cut, echoing the doubts Kathleen had fought since her delivery days. She straightened, her voice firm. "I've stopped worse. We'll contain this." Muller's skeptical frown lingered, but she turned to her team, resolve burning. Kathleen rallied her engineers, Arjun, Lena, and a recruit, Priya, but the lab alone wasn't enough. She tapped Code for All, her mentorship program, mobilizing its brightest students. "We need fresh eyes," she told Arjun, dialing Jamal, now a college freshman. Over a secure line, she briefed her mentees, their voices crackling with excitement. "Check the sensor logs for anomalies," Kathleen instructed. "You're as sharp as anyone here." Within hours, a teen named Sophia spotted a pattern. The hackers were masking their attacks as routine heat spikes. "Sophia's right," Kathleen said, projecting the data. "They're using decoy signals to hide the real breach." She devised a bold counterstrike, feed the hackers false data to misdirect them, buying time to patch the sensors. Lena hesitated, her brow furrowed. "If we miscalculate, the grids collapse." Kathleen met her gaze. "We won't. Trust the plan." Her confidence, hard-earned through countless battles, steadied the room. The lab became a war room, screens aglow with code and maps. Kathleen orchestrated the response, her commands precise. "Jamal, Sophia, keep filtering the logs. Priya, prep the dummy data. Arjun, deploy the patch when I signal." Her team moved like a symphony, their trust in her absolute. Outside, Atlanta's skyline glittered, oblivious to the stakes. Kathleen's thoughts flickered to her mother's words, spoken during a hospital stay. "You're light, Kat, even when they try to snuff you out." She clung to that, her focus ablade. Hours ticked by, each second a pulse of dread. The hackers. Signals surged, then faltered as the decoy data took hold. "They're biting," Arjun whispered, his eyes on the monitors. Kathleen signaled the patch, a complex algorithm to recalibrate the sensors. The screens flickered, then stabilized. green pulses replacing red. A cheer erupted, Lena hugging Priya, Arjun grinning ear to ear. "We did it," Kathleen said, her voice soft but triumphant. Helios held its light unbroken. The victory rippled. Outward. News of the thwarted attack spread, with Neon Volt hailed as a global guardian. Kathleen's role drew praise, her name trending alongside Helios. At an international cybersecurity summit in Geneva, she accepted an award, her speech brief, but resonant. "This wasn't just my win, it was my team's, my students. Together we proved what's possible." The audience rose, their applause a tide that drowned out Muller's earlier doubts. Back in Atlanta, Kathleen's pride arrived. The ACLU's fight for her father culminated in a retrial, and he was exonerated. She stood outside the courthouse, her blazer catching the spring breeze as her father, Javier, emerged. His embrace was fierce, his voice thick. "You did this, Kat. You brought me home." Maria, frail but radiant, joined them, the family whole at last. Kathleen's tears fell freely, the weight of years lifting. The lab felt different now, a place of creation rather than combat. Kathleen resumed work on Helios, her team tighter than ever. One afternoon, Richard Holt visited her station. His usual stoicism softened. "You turned a crisis into a legacy," he said. "I'm proud." Kathleen smiled, her badge gleaming. "We're not done yet." Her final milestone came at Georgia Tech, where she crossed the commencement stage, diploma in hand. The crowd roared. Maria, Javier, Arjun, Lena, and her code for all students among them. Kathleen's gown fluttered, her heart full. She'd rebuilt her dream, not just for herself, but for those she'd lifted. Jamal caught her after, his grin wide. "You're my hero, Ms. Ramirez." She laughed, ruffling his hair. "You're next, kid." That evening, Kathleen stood on her apartment's balcony, Atlanta's lights a tapestry below. The hacker's defeat, her father's freedom, her degree, they were victories hard won, each a testament to her resilience. She thought of Sophia, coding in a community center, and the villages Helios illuminated. The challenge had been final in name only. Her work, her light would endure. Kathleen's phone buzzed, a message from Aisha, her Kenyan mentee, with a photo of her first circuit board. "For you, Miss Kathleen," it read. She smiled, the city's hum a song of possibility. The world had tested her, but she'd emerged not just whole but radiant, a beacon for those who dared to shine. The Kenyan savannah stretched boundless under a twilight sky, its golden hues painting the village where Kathleen Ramirez stood. Neon Volt's Helios microgrid hummed softly, its solar arrays powering homes that glowed like fireflies. Kathleen, now a global figure, watched children race across the dusty earth, their laughter mingling with the whir of a tablet one clutched, AEI, gift from her Code for All program. She'd returned to see Aisha, the girl whose crayon drawing years ago had anchored her purpose. Today, Aisha, now a teen, coded circuits on that tablet, her eyes alight with ambition. "Miss Kathleen," she said, beaming, "I built an app for the school." Kathleen's heart swelled. The moment a mirror of her dreams was reborn. Back in Atlanta, Kathleen's influence had reshaped the tech landscape. Code for All spanned 20 countries, its workshops nurturing thousands of Black, Latino, and marginalized youth. She'd forged alliances with universities from Howard to Nairobi, securing scholarships and labs. At a virtual summit, Kathleen mentored students across continents, her screen filled with eager faces. "Your ideas matter," she told them, her voice a quiet fire. "Build them boldly." A boy from Lagos shared his AI prototype, and Kathleen's feedback, sharp, encouraging, sparked his grin. Each connection was a thread in her tapestry of change. Neon Volt honored her with a namesake scholarship fund, endowing STEM education for underserved communities. Kathleen helped design it, ensuring no student faced the barriers she'd once endured. At the fund's launch, Richard Holt, his stern demeanor softened by time, pulled her aside. "You've redefined genius," he said, his eyes crinkling. I thought talent came from pedigrees. You proved it comes from the heart. Kathleen smiled, her badge a quiet testament to her journey. I just opened the door, she replied. They're the ones walking through. Her return to Kenya was a pilgrimage. At the village school, now a hub of tech learning, Kathleen met Aisha's classmates, their projects, solar trackers, water monitors, evidence of Helios's ripple effect. Aisha led her to a classroom, its walls adorned with student code. You inspired this, Aisha said, handing Kathleen a new drawing. A woman with a tablet, light streaming from her hands. Kathleen's throat tightened, the image a legacy etched. Color. A memory flickered. Her first delivery to Neon Volt, the sting of invisibility. Now she was a beacon, her face on global STEM campaigns, her story a clarion call. At a Nairobi conference, Kathleen keynoted, urging inclusivity in AI. The future isn't built by the few, she declared, but by the many who've been unseen. The applause was thunderous, her words echoing in policy halls and classrooms alike. Atlanta remained her anchor. The Code for All headquarters, a sleek center she'd cut the ribbon for, buzzed with students. Kathleen walked its halls, pausing at a mural of her journey, from delivery cart to lab coat. Jamal, now a grad student, joined her, his laptop open to a new algorithm. You changed my life, he said, his voice earnest. Kathleen laughed, nudging him. You're changing it yourself. The center hosted hackathons, its energy a pulse of possibility. Her family grounded her. Maria, healthier now, cooked with Kathleen in their renovated apartment, Javier's laughter filling the space. At dinner, he raised a glass. To my daughter, who brought us light. Kathleen's eyes glistened, their reunion a miracle she'd helped forge. She visited them daily, balancing lab work with mentorship, her life a mosaic of duty and joy. Holt's mentorship endured. Over coffee, he shared Neon Volt's next venture, a lunar grid AI, and asked Kathleen's input. You're not just an engineer, he said. You're a visionary. She sketched ideas, her mind alight, knowing her work would outlive her. Helios now powers millions, its success a testament to her grit. At the chapter's close, Kathleen stood on a Kenyan hill, the village aglow below. Aisha joined her, tablet in hand. I'll be an engineer because of you, she said. Kathleen knelt, her voice soft. You'll be one because of you. The stars above mirrored the lights below, a constellation of her impact. She'd delivered sandwiches once, then hope, and now a future where no dream was too big. Kathleen's legacy wasn't in headlines or awards, but in Aisha's code, Jamal's ambition, and the villages that shone. She'd faced doubt, hacked, crises, and rebuilt her family, each step a defiance of the world's limits. As the sun dipped, casting gold across the land, Kathleen felt peace, a quiet certainty that her light would endure, carried by those she'd empowered to soar. Thank you for joining us on Kathleen Ramirez's incredible journey in When AI Threatened the Nation, a discarded black girl rewrote history. From a delivery driver to a global trailblazer, her story of resilience and brilliance reminds us that genius shines brightest in the face of struggle. We hope it inspired you as much as it did us. What moved you most about Kathleen's tale? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you're listening from. We'd love to hear from you. Your support keeps these stories alive, so don't forget to subscribe and share for more tales of triumph. Until next time, keep chasing your light, and we'll meet again soon with another story that sparks the soul. Thank you, and see you in the next chapter.